Rational numbers. This visual will give you a description of what a rational number is. A rational number is a number that can be written as a ratio with any integer on top as the numerator and any integer except 0 on the bottom as the denominator. So rational numbers examples are 0.2 because it's really 2/10, 1/2, and 75% because remember percents are per 100. Integers are rational numbers. They fall into that category. Remember, integers are the positive and negative counting numbers. And whole numbers fall into all of those categories because they can be written as well as a ratio. 1/1, 2/1, 3/1, etc. All right, let's work with some rational numbers. Yesterday we put numbers in order and we compared numbers. So we're going to start the same way. We're going to compare -2/3 and -1/2. Before you can compare numbers, you first must put fractions into like denominators. So I'm going to change, I'm going to rewrite down here, -2/3 and -1/2. I'm going to change these into fractions with like denominators. To do that, I need to make common denominator. I'm going to go with the least common denominator, and I know if I multiply 3 times 2, I'm going to get 6. So 3 times 2, I got to do the same to the top. 2 times 2 is 4. Keep our negative sign. 3 times 2 is 6. Changing 2 into a 6, I want to multiply times 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. Keep my negative sign. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Now all I have to do, if you remember from comparing fractions, is compare the top two numbers, the numerators. Let's take a look at the number line here. They're both negative numbers. I have a -3 and a -4. Remember when you compare negative numbers, the number on the right is always larger. So here in this case, -3 is greater than -4. So -4/6 is less than -3/6. If I take that back to my original problem, I know that 4/6 and 2/3 are the same, so -2/3 is less than -1/2. Let's try another one. Let's try a decimal this time because we know a decimal is a rational number. I'm just going to use this side of my paper here. Save some paper. All right, when I'm comparing decimals, remember we need to line up the decimal and compare digits. They're both negative, so I'm going to start by lining up my decimals. 0.2 and -2.0 because we have a 2.0 here. All right, I'm going to compare my digits. The first digit that I notice is different is the very first digit. I'm going to use those two numbers on my number line, and I'm going to compare them. I have a 0, which is not negative or positive, but it's a 0, and I have a -2. If I look at these two numbers, I notice that the 0 is on the right. 0 is larger than -2. So this number is larger. Therefore, -0.2 is greater. Oh no, scratch that. 0.2, -0.2 is greater than -2. Oopsie. Too bad I don't have an eraser for my marker. All right. Well, we all make mistakes. It happens. Okay. Let's take a look at this problem. This is comparing a fraction and a decimal. If you remember way back to fractions, we have to change them into like terms. So I have to have 2 decimals or 2 fractions to compare them. I'll try both ways. First, I'm going to change -2/5 into a decimal. Remember to do that. If you don't remember, you have notes in your interactive notebook. To do that, we're going to take 2 and divide it by 5. Right now I'm going to ignore that negative sign. We'll put it back when we're done. 2 divided by 5. Well, 0. Place my decimal. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So I'm going to replace my negative sign. 0.4 compared to negative 0.4. Oh my goodness. They are equal. I won't mess this one up. I promise. Okay, let me try it the other way by changing 0.4 or negative 0.4 into a fraction. I'll move down here. See if I get the same answer. All right, so I'm going to keep negative 2/5, and I'm going to change 0.4, negative 0.4, into a fraction. Remember, this is the tenths place, so I'm going to have 4 tenths, and it's negative. Now I have to have a common denominator, and I see that 10 is a common denominator. It's a multiple of 5, so I'm going to multiply times 2. I'm going to have negative 4 tenths and negative 4 tenths. Again, it is still equal. So either way that you want to do it is perfectly fine. All right, I have a couple for you to try. In a moment, you're going to pause the video and try these in the notes section of your notes page. First, I would like you to do negative 1/3 and compare it to negative 3/4. Don't forget to change to common denominators. The second one is comparing a fraction, negative 1/2, to a decimal of negative 0.3. Remember, you have to have both decimals or both fractions. You get to decide. Please pause the video and try these two problems. All right, we will talk about those two in class tomorrow. Something else that we need to do with rational numbers is to be able to put them in order. So here is an example of some rational numbers, and we need to put those in order. We're going to put them in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to make myself a note. Least to greatest. I don't want to forget which way I'm going. That's important. Okay, to do this, I want to make them all like terms. So let's see. I have some whole numbers, some fractions, and a decimal. I only have one decimal, so I think I will change them into fractions and whole numbers. Okay, so I'm going to keep negative 3.5. I'm going to keep my 2. I'm going to change my negative 1 and 7/10 into a fraction. So I have negative 1 and 7/10. And I'm going to keep my negative 1. And I'm going to keep my 1/2, positive 1/2. All right. Now remember, we need to place these on a number line. And then we can compare left to right, least to greatest. Okay, so negative 3 is negative 3.5. So I went over 3.5. So I'm going to make sure I'm still going to the left when I plot my point. So I'm going to put negative 3 is halfway between negative 3.5, halfway between 3 and 4. All right, 2 is a positive 2, so it goes here, and I'm writing them above so I don't forget for those half points there. All right, so I got this one, I got this one. Negative 1 and 7/10. Well, I know that 7/10 is close to 10/10, so it's almost to the next number. Well, my number is 1, so the next number would be 2. So I'm going to go negative because it's a negative number. Negative 1 and almost 2. A little bit farther than half, not all the way there. That's negative 1 and 7/10. All right. My next number is negative 1, so I'm going to place that there. Negative 1. And then my last number is 1/2, positive 1/2, so I'm going to come over to 1/2. Now to place them in order from least to greatest, I'm just going to start from the left and place them in order. Let's switch colors here so you can see where that is. All right, so my first number is negative 3.5, negative 1 and 7/10, negative 1, positive 1/2, positive 2. Least to greatest. If you notice, all the negative numbers are on this side, and all the positive numbers are on this side. You should have that if you're going least to greatest. The negatives should all be together, and the positives should all be together. All right, I have one of those I would like for you to try as well. I would like you to put these numbers in order from least to greatest. You may pause the video now. All right, we will check that one in class as well tomorrow. Those are the examples I have for you. Please make sure you have all of your sections filled in your notes page. And if you have any questions about today's lesson, please put them in the question box.